$5 trillion. That's the number Nvidia just hit, and it broke every record in the history of the stock market. No company has ever been worth this much. Not Apple, not Microsoft, not Amazon, nobody. And here's the part that should make your jaw drop. Just 2 years ago, Nvidia was worth $1 trillion. They added $4 trillion in value in less time than it takes a child to finish second grade. So the question everybody is asking right now is this the greatest wealth creation story in human history? Or are we watching the world's most expensive house of cards? Well, the answer might just surprise you. To understand what's happening, you need to understand what Nvidia actually does. Most people think of Nvidia as a gaming company, and they're not wrong. They've been making graphics cards for video games for decades. But somewhere along the way, the world discovered that the same chips powering your video games are also the best tools ever built for training artificial intelligence. And suddenly, every major tech company on the planet, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, needed Nvidia chips. Desperately, by the tens of thousands. Nvidia didn't just catch the AI wave, they built the wave. Their GPUs, graphics processing units, became the engine of the entire AI revolution. Every chatbot you talk to, every image you see generated by AI, every self-driving car being tested on a highway somewhere. Chances are an Nvidia chip made it possible. The stock responded accordingly. In just over 3 years, Nvidia's share price surged nearly 1,700%. To put that into perspective, if you had invested just $10,000 in Nvidia 3 years ago, you'd be sitting on roughly $180,000 today. And the company kept going. $4 trillion in June, $5 trillion in October. Nearly $1 trillion added every few months like clockwork. Let's talk about just how staggering $5 trillion actually is. Nvidia is now worth more than the entire GDP of every country on Earth, except the United States and China. Think about that. Japan, Germany, India, the United Kingdom, every product made, every service sold, every dollar earned in those entire countries in an entire year, Nvidia is worth more. Nvidia is worth more than all of its biggest competitors combined. AMD, Intel, Broadcom, TSMC, Qualcomm, Micron, add them all up, and Nvidia is still bigger. On a single Tuesday in October, Nvidia's stock rose 5% in one day, adding $250 billion to its value. In one day. That's more than the entire market value of all but 31 publicly traded companies in America. And Nvidia's CEO, Jensen Huang, he's now worth over $170 billion, making him one of the 10 wealthiest people on the planet. This isn't normal. None of this is normal. None of this is... Here's where it gets complicated, because the answer isn't simply yes or no. Let's start with the case that everything is fine. Nvidia isn't just riding hype. The company is printing money. Revenue is growing at a pace almost no company this size has ever achieved. Their chips are sold out. Demand is so far ahead of supply that customers are fighting over access. And here's something analysts keep saying that surprises people. Despite being worth $5 trillion, Nvidia's price-to-earnings ratio is actually lower than you'd expect for a company growing this fast. They are expensive. But they might not be overpriced. The world is in the early stages of an AI build-out that could last a decade. Every data center being built right now needs Nvidia chips. Every AI model being trained needs Nvidia chips. The infrastructure of the future is being built on their technology. So if AI is real, and it very much appears to be, Nvidia may have a lot further to run. But, and this is a big but, there are real cracks forming beneath the surface. The first risk is the one nobody wants to talk about, the AI bubble. Dating back to the internet, in the 1990s, every single transformative technology in history has gone through a hype cycle, a period where valuations explode, expectations run wild, and reality eventually catches up. The dot-com crash wiped out trillions. Crypto has crashed multiple times. Nobody is saying AI isn't real. But real technology and overvalued stocks are two different things. And some of the smartest investors in the world, including analysts at the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of England, are quietly warning that global markets could be in serious trouble if AI enthusiasm cools even slightly. The second risk is competition. Right now, Nvidia is untouchable, but that won't last forever. AMD is preparing its next generation of AI chips, the MI450, due out in the second half of 2026. Oracle has already announced plans to deploy tens of thousands of AMD chips in its data centers. Big customers are starting to explore alternatives. Even some of Nvidia's biggest clients are quietly diversifying their chip supply to avoid being too dependent on one company. And then there's China. The US has restricted Nvidia from selling its most powerful chips to Chinese buyers. That's a massive market, locked out, and China isn't sitting still. Huawei is pushing hard to produce its own competing AI chips, with plans for hundreds of thousands of units by 2026. If China succeeds at building chips that are good enough, even if not as powerful as Nvidia's, it doesn't need Nvidia anymore. The third risk is math. Nvidia is now so large that doubling in value again would require a $10 trillion market cap. No company has ever come close. The bigger you are, the harder it is to grow. And growth investors, the people who've been pushing this stock higher, may start looking elsewhere for bigger returns. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Nvidia's rise to $5 trillion is not just a stock market story. It's a signal. It's a signal that the world has made a massive bet on artificial intelligence, that governments, corporations, and investors believe AI is going to reshape the global economy in ways we can barely imagine. And that bet is currently passing through a single company, Nvidia. When one company becomes the critical infrastructure of an entire technological revolution that creates extraordinary opportunity and extraordinary risk. At the same time, should you be worried? If you own Nvidia stock, maybe a little? Not because the company isn't great, it is, but because great companies at extreme valuations can still lose a lot of value if anything goes wrong. Should you be excited? Absolutely. Because what Nvidia's rise represents, the dawn of the AI age, is one of the most significant shifts in human history. And we are living through it in real time. $5 trillion is not just a number. It's a statement. The world has decided that artificial intelligence is the future. And right now, Nvidia is the company holding the keys. Whether that lasts forever, well, that's a story still being written.